Sometimes you just got to get out and do it regardless of the odds. Thanks for joining me on the Journeyman's Tales. Well, we are finally here and settled. It took me like an hour and a half longer to get here because of the motorway. It was a total standstill, more or less, at Newport. There'd been an accident, but by the time you go past it, it was just police there and mopping up services. Everything else had gone. But even an hour and a half later, when I arrived in Oxford, they were still saying it was down to one lane. So I don't know what the hell they were doing, but they were certainly taking their time. Anyway, we got here, and I'm on Yeoman's. It's empty, which either means I'm very lucky or it's not fishing particularly well. So I looked at a couple of swims and they were bubbling in both. So I dumped the gear in one swim and I put a couple of rods out in the swim off to my left and just fished them off the ground for an hour, and they were totally ignored. So I moved back to where I put all the kit, got the rods out. Well, I put some bait out and then put the rods out and then put the camp together, which seemed to take an absolute age. I mean, last week's been really warm. It's due to get seriously cold towards the end of this week. I've come up to Oxford because my local syndicate is now quite busy and they've restricted it now to 48 hours on and 3-day gap in between. And to be frank, if I'm only going to get out every now and again, and this could be my last trip for a while, I want to at least have 3 nights. I can do 3 nights body-wise. So I want to try and make the most of it, so that's why I've come up here. Bumped into a guy after I'd got the camp set up, and he said it hadn't been fishing very well. But he was surprised I was the only one on here. But it is a Monday, and presumably there were people on here for the weekend. Anyway, there's fish bubbling out there. I haven't put a huge amount. I've gone in more or less the same as I was when I was up here fishing Unity. I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 weeks back now. So I've gone in with boilie crumb, with bloodworm. Just going to play it slowly and see what happens. I got the feeling last time, if I'd have put more bait out, I'd have probably caught more fish, but I don't want to rush into that. I'm just going to put it out. I put out half a dozen spoms earlier on before I put the rods in. I've just put out another 3. I'm fishing them fairly tight together, not a huge range, just where the bubbling was. Fingers crossed something gets his head down. But he's clouding up lovely. I mean, it's nice and warm. It is clouding up lovely. The pressure's due to be dropping towards the middle and the end of the week, but it's going to start getting colder by all accounts. But I mean, last week was strangely warm for the time of year. So that's the plan. I'm going to stay here for certainly 2 nights. Going to go hopefully for the 3 nights because I know the body can cope with that, but I'm also sitting here waiting for a phone call from the surgeon with the result of a scan to let me know what's going on. I've had the results of the biopsy. Wasn't the best of news, but I'll deal with it. But in the meantime, until they demand otherwise, I'm going to get out as best I can. Although things seem to be taking longer to do. But we'll keep plugging away. Hopefully next time you see me, we'll have a nice big scaly beast. Well, I did say hopefully that the next time you see me will be with a scaly beast in my hands. Obviously that didn't come to fruition. There were a few fish boshing far off to my left, the other side of the island, and a couple slightly to the right of the baited area, but they were still bubbling into darkness. Then it started raining, so I couldn't really see a lot after that because I was hiding in the bivvy. But I was a bit disappointed nothing's happened this last night or this morning really. There was one boshing off to my right, which I've put a pop-up over, but that hasn't come to anything. I have refreshed the left hand and the middle rod, and I've just finished putting out some more crumb and some chops. Weather-wise, I know there's been a huge drop in temperature from last week, but last week was a bit extraordinary, really. But I mean, it's now sort of proper March weather, if you like. It's not ridiculously cold, although it is due to get colder, but it's overcast. The pressures are dropping. But then you've got that seed that was planted by that guy yesterday that hadn't been fishing well. But they're still showing. So there's no reason why they shouldn't get their heads down and feed. I did have the pleasure yesterday, I was having my tea and a guy came up who'd been watching a few of the videos and was very complimentary. His name was Roy. So I mean, it's great to have nice conversations with nice people on the bank, and doing these videos has given me that opportunity to meet nice people. And yeah, I'm very grateful for it. I have had the phone call from the surgeon, and the results of the scan are good. So we've just got to get past the biopsy, which wasn't so good. But I'm going to stick this out for the 3 nights, given it might be my last opportunity to get out and about. And you can always guarantee one thing's going to brighten your day up, and that's a big fish, isn't it? So hopefully it won't be much longer before something turns up. Being on the last trip, nothing came on the first night, and it wasn't until the evening, and that night, the second night, things showed up. So it's never too late. Feeling quite positive, actually. I know they haven't been responding to the betas yet, but feeling positive because the weather is perfect and they are out there. Fingers crossed as well, of course. Now, I know on a lot of waters these days the old laser pen, which is highly recommended by some anglers, has been banned, and quite frankly, in my opinion, for good reason. Some people just can't be trusted with them. Some people can't be trusted with a head torch, quite frankly. So what I tend to use is the Tufty Torch, and I got one of these a few years ago when Leon Bartlett was saying how useful they were. So I purchased one, and one of the big questions at the time was, do they work in daylight? Well, it's not bright sunlight, it's overcast, but you can see how quickly they respond, even in daylight, to the torch being shown. Now, I've got swims opposite me at the moment that are vacated. I wouldn't be able to do this, or I would, but I wouldn't want to do this if those swims are occupied. I certainly wouldn't do it at night, because it shows up much brighter. It's very difficult for the human to see any glare from it during the daylight, but at night time it is quite a powerful red LED. But there's nobody opposite me at the moment, and you can see even in daylight, as soon as you put the torch on those things and they recognise it, off they go. And I don't know whether that's sort of 60, 70 yards away from me. The one from the island's even further away, and they're still picking up from it. They don't like it at all. It's even bigger response if it is dark, but again, it's like everything else, you've got to use it sensibly. If there's people near you, people opposite you, just don't use it. It might be a godsend to keep the birds off your bait, but don't use it. It's far too dangerous, disturbs other people. But if you're on your own, if you're fishing up against an island where there's nobody around you and you're not going to disturb anybody, they're pretty good, these Tufty torches. They do work, even in daylight. Is he extracting the Michael, hobbling around like that? Now, I've always wanted to stand on one leg and scratch the back of my head with the other foot. Well, we're slowly coming into late afternoon now. I've just put out 6 more spombs of the crumb and bloodworm out on the spot. I'm about to redo all the rods now. The right hand rod, for most of the day I've been fishing with a bright orange pop-up on it, and I'm just roving it around the place. There has been one fish topped way out of my water to the right, one fished out long in front of me. So I've been throwing that one around, just moving it every hour to no avail. But I'm going to redo all 3 of them. They're all going on the spot tonight. I'm going to put out my favourite wafter rig with a probate squid and orange wafter on it. 2 of the rods with that, probably the left and right, and the middle rod I'm going with the probate squid and orange bottom bait with the Indian spice topper. So a bit of a snowman jobby going on there, on the same rig actually. That's tonight's approach. Not exactly winning, but that's what we're doing. There you go, lively little beast, just under 20 pounds on the middle rod on the squid and orange Indian spice combo. Thrilled to get off the mark. Confidence is one thing, catching a fish is another. Right, I'll give you a quick shot of the other side. She is very lively. She doesn't. Whoa. She doesn't like my company, so we'll get her back. Big relief. Big relief. Right, come on, babe. Good morning. At last, a bit of success. Just about 11 o'clock-ish yesterday night, evening. We'd had a bit of early rain and it just went flat calm. The rain stopped, no wind. It was like a mill pond out there. And I was watching a bit of telly and wham, off the middle rod went with the squid and orange Indian spice combi. 1914, something like that it was. What a relief. I know confidence was high, but it's always a relief to catch. But unfortunately, that was it. I did put some more bait out about 5:30 this morning over that area. I put some out on a new spot straight out in front of me. So I thought I'd split the left-hand rod and the middle rod up. And the right-hand rod had already taken out and it was ready in case something boshed off like it did yesterday morning to my right. Sure enough it did. And I was there like a textbook, straight in the rings. And I think you can count on the fingers of one hand the amount of times I've been able to successfully do that and catch over a squillion years of fishing. And settled it all down, tightened the line up, put it in the clip, it's on the buzzer, put the kettle on, beep, 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 beep. And it had been out there a couple of minutes and the coot had found it. Now if a coot can find it from 8 foot above it, you'd have thought the carp in the area might have spotted it, but no. This is a coot. So I clipped it up, recast it to the same spot, and I've done what I was going to do. I've split the left and the right-hand rod up, middle rod up. So we're now fishing 3 different spots. 2 have got bait over. 1 is just going to rove around and see where we go from there. But there's been fish boshing right up in the corner off to my right. I don't know, if I was 20 years younger I might have moved, but that's not happening. Nothing really boshed in front of me. There's one gone this morning off the side of the island where it traditionally goes. Not in my water. And I haven't as yet seen any bubbling this morning or anything like that. But we've got another day and a night. Keep forecasting on the radio that there's snow coming in from the south, so that'll be interesting. I haven't had a snowy picture for a while. I certainly haven't had a carp in the snow. That would be quite an achievement to finish off with. Anyway, as I say, we've got another day and a night. As long as it doesn't rain, I'm not bothered. Snow would be interesting. Rain, no thank you. It's gone flat calm. The pressure's dropping. It's perfect. I've got no answers. Just as the light is fading on the last evening and the rain's coming in again and the baiting over the left-hand rod is slicking up a treat. Surely only a matter of time. We live in hope, eh? If I don't see you in the night, I'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see me in the middle of the night with a big fish. All that slicking came to nothing, which was a bit disappointing and a bit of a surprise really. I felt sure something was going on there. But there we are. We don't end up with a big fish, but at least it wasn't a blank. and the temperature has absolutely gone through the floor now. It didn't snow, and the rain has eased off, but the wind's picked up, but my fingers are absolutely freezing. But it's time to start slowly packing away and heading home. I don't know when I'm going to be out again, to be perfectly honest. I did have a couple of away trips planned to Home Pool with my friend Kerry, who you've all met before. One in September, which is the traditional time, but I also booked an early one in May, and I've had to pull out of that one. I don't know if I'm going to be out over the Easter period. I tend not to during the holiday time go out because it tends to get a bit busy. But at some time in the not too distant future, I'm talking weeks, I think, the chemotherapy has to start, and then I've got to make serious decisions about life-changing surgery. But we can only take it day by day and see what happens from then. So fingers are crossed that I'm going to make the home pool session at least in September. Now, I know Ian Chilcott says crossing your fingers is no kind of plan, but I've got nothing else with cancer. That's all I can do, is cross my fingers and hope for the best. Anyway, thanks for supporting the channel, thanks for watching, and thanks for all your wonderful messages, and as always, thanks for your company on this Journeyman's Tales, and hopefully, as Arnie, I'll be back. Cheers, guys. I love women in the sea.